brother, as suburban as it gets. He had in my parents' house, he had a shoe closet that was bigger than most of his friends' actual room, just for shoes. But I caught him out once with his friends. He like, shit, shawty, you know what I'm saying, motherfucker? And I was like, what? So I pulled him over and I said, why are you talking like that? He said, shh. He said, you have to talk like this or you won't get accepted. He said, the girls won't like you and the guys won't accept you as a friend. And I was like, this is insane. We weren't raised like this. You've seen no parts of the hood, sir.
Yeah. And what's funny, people like my dad, who genuinely did, he actually is from the part inside of 8 Mile that Eminem likes to claim he's from. Really did have a rough upbringing, but it doesn't matter. A great example, I think Ben Carson is such a worst surrogate ever. He's just like, what do you think about Donald Trump? I think maybe we should ban the Second Amendment. No, Ben. No, Dr. Ben. That's not the right answer. But people said, well, he's not really black. I'm like, hold on a second. Detroit, raised to a single mother in Detroit, tried to stab her. Like, this is not Barack Obama playing for the B team. He's the all-star of the black team. Like, if you're going to use those standards, so it seems like even with those standards, it's all negated if he pulls himself out of it.
Yep. Look, Barack Obama is extra black, which I don't understand. His black father wasn't around. He was raised by his white mother around mostly white people. Yeah. But all of a sudden, he's Mr. Black, and I hear them say it because he married a black woman. I'm like, really? Well, that pretty much is the first black woman he'd ever talked to. And this, I believe this all had something to do with politics. He could not have gotten to where he is if he had a white wife with him. It wouldn't have played to most of America. But he's able to go out and be the blackest thing going when he doesn't have the black experience. And I don't understand how black people can be. Well, why am I saying this? Because black people have been brainwashed by liberals and Democrats for all these years. If you ever notice, and you can tell a black person this, why is it that every place in America that's very, very violent has two things in common? One, single mothers, two, Democrats.
Yeah, well, it's people. We were talking about that with Phil Advise. It goes back to Lyndon Johnson and the Model Cities program, and basically creating an incentive for women to marry the state. I mean, he said he was going to have those Negroes voting Democrat for the next X amount of years. These are well-documented quotes. It wasn't because they cared about black people. It was just like now with illegal immigrants. The votes came cheap at that point.
You literally had to have watched me last night because we talked about this. We talked about how the Democrats are undercutting the voting populace. What they're saying is, well, shoot, we'd love to have those felons. So let's let the felons vote because they'll vote for us because we'll offer them something free. They're really just going to the lowest common denominator, and I hate saying it, but that's what they're doing. Yeah. They're going to people with their hands out and saying, well, we'll give you a little something if you give us your vote because it's the cheapest way around them getting a voting populace. And they've done that with the illegal immigrants when they were saying, well, we should get them worker cards and driver's license. So, and it's like they're making excuses for these people to stay un-American. So they get to fly their flag of where they're from, not learn your language, and all of the things that used to be a part of becoming American. Now, being a separatist in America is the norm.
It's funny that it's one of those things to me that's always been relatively common sense. Like, hey, you broke the law. Mm-hmm. What do you vote on our next one? What should the law be? I mean, I understand if you've served your time as well, but there have even been proposals for felons in prison to be able to vote. Like, they go that far. If they could do it, it's just like, well, scale it back for right now.
Look at what they're doing in Minnesota. A guy from Minnesota called me last night, and he was talking about what they were doing with the Somali refugees, that their governor is asking for more of them because he knows if he gets more of them, he can increase the Democratic fan base, as I would call them, because they're fanatics.
Yeah.
They're literally voting for Democrat just because they see a D, because they believe, like a lot of people when Barack Obama was elected, we believe he's going to give us free stuff. And they literally came out in public and said, black people are going to get free stuff. And they believe this. Why would they believe this? And why is it okay for them to believe it? Like, I've watched on Twitter, and I don't know how much you go through Twitter and just watch it. You'll watch every time a black person says something that is common sense, they'll say, you must be a Trump voter. Like, how is that, number one, even a bad thing? Like, black people act like voting for other rich white people is somehow revolutionary. Because before Barack Obama, you pretty much just had one white person versus another one, and both were rich. But they've convinced the black people that the white person with the D beside their name is all about you and all about the poor, even though John Edwards was getting $800 haircuts and cheating on his wife with cancer. But he's all about you.
Cheating on his wife with cancer with a pregnant lady. I don't think it gets any. Oh my gosh, the guy is just an absolute scuzzball. It is one of those things. If we're going to be simplistic, right? If we're going to be reductive, I guess to find a word where people are like, well, the Republicans are the party of the rich. Okay, let's go with that. So they need rich people in order to be elected. So they would have an incentive to make you rich because they need a majority of the country to be rich, not the 1%. 1% doesn't get you elected, sweetheart. So if Democrats are the party of the poor, they need a majority of the country to be.
Well, see, Stephen, that's where you're messing up. That's where you messed up in your slaughtering of the Advise show. Because once you talk to someone whose name is Advise show, you probably won at that point on a But the fact is, once you bring up facts to the so-called pro-blacks, to the liberal left, to the social justice warriors, they go crazy. They go nuts. They shut down. Johnny Five needs to be rebooted.